Welcome to our Beyond the Podium Election 2024 coverage. I'm WTOV 9 evening anchor Dylan Cleland. Today we are focusing on the race for Ohio's 6th congressional district. Democrat Michael Kripchak is facing incumbent Republican Michael Rulli, who took the seat after winning a special election back on June 11th. That was to replace former Congressman Bill Johnson, who resigned at the beginning of 2024. Here's more from my one-on-one sit-down with Democrat Michael Kripchak.
Michael, thanks for stopping in. It's good to have you back in the Ohio Valley. Election day is approaching quickly.
Yes, very quickly.
But before we get into that, I do want to go back to June, the special election. What did you learn that night, and how has it helped you move forward through this time around?
You know, I learned that we had a real chance to win this thing. Look, only 5,000 votes. I mean, we swung that district from, a Trump plus 32 to he only won by 10 points. It was a huge swing, and we caught a lot of media attention. We caught the attention of the DNC, which was great. I'll be the first to admit, I wish that led into more financial support from the DNC. But in the end, I'm not running for them. I'm running for us.
And in terms of strategy, have you adjusted where you're going, the people you're talking to, or are you still trying to hit pretty much everybody?
Look, I'm still trying to hit everybody. I'm pretty sure I made it to all the fairs in every single county. Some of those conversations go great. Unfortunately, there's still people that no matter how much of a great conversation I have with them, no matter how much they love my plans for the economy, the fact that I'm a veteran, as soon as they ask me what party I'm with, I say I'm an American on the Democratic ticket. And a lot of people still, that's a game changer for them. And, I say the same thing I do to them as I will right here, which is, if you want the Democratic Party to change and be for us again, you got to get people like me into office.
In terms of what you're hearing from voters, you just shed a little bit of light on it, but what about conversations about issues or topics that are maybe timely right now and affecting them every day?
Aside from comments on the presidential race, which we could stay away from. Pretty much most people have made up their minds one way or the other on that front. It comes back to the economy. I do have to say, whenever issues at the border are brought up, I kind of put a stop to it right there, saying, Donald Trump, I believe it's Senator Langford, I watched an interview with him where he even admits, Donald Trump did put a stop to this getting passed. And it's like, great, this issue has a solution on the table. If it's such a crisis, which I believe steps need to be taken, then I'd vote for that bill on day one. And Kamala Harris has already said she'd sign it into law. But aside from that one, the economy. And for me, from the research I've done, a lot of it comes down to overconsolidation in our markets. And if you listen to the investor talks that food companies and, even oil companies give, as one of the food company investor calls put it, they said, we raised prices and lower how much we were giving people. We saw surprisingly little elasticity, which means they said people are still buying. And that's why prices are high. The 4 major meatpacking groups in our country are currently being investigated by the FTC and DOJ for price collusion. And the question whether they could be convicted of it is up in the air, and it's because our antitrust and anti-collusion laws some of them are a century old. We need to get them updated. We need to increase competition like a free market economy requires.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the economy and inflation, and just you mentioned all of that aspect of it, but it could be boiled down to the grocery bill for the family, or the gas, the amount of money going out to gas right now to fill up the tank. Day one, if you were to get in, what would kind of be that first thing you'd do to try to help that?
I support the efforts that Kamala Harris is doing, their effort to crack down on price gouging. But again, I think that's a halfway step. It's only part of the problem. I think we need legislation to keep, not venture capital groups, private equity groups from buying up so much property. We need reinforced anti-collusion laws when it comes to rental properties. I talked to one rental homeowner, rental apartment building owner, and she said to me, I'm keeping my prices down where I think they should be. And she said, I have the other rental properties around me coming to me, complaining to me that, hey, you're not letting us raise our prices like we can because of you keeping your prices lower. And it shouldn't be up to, valiant souls willing to give people a good rate on their rent to solve these problems. And so ultimately, we need to fight against anti-collusion. We need to fight against collusion. We need to fight against the trust and duopolies that have formed in our country. I think that's the biggest impact. And when it comes to oil and gas, look, we're already producing the most we ever have in the history of our country over this last year. And I laud those efforts to do that. But the writing is on the wall, especially with the hurricanes going on down in Florida and the storms that hit the Carolinas. We have to start transitioning. Force transitions onto people? No, of course not. But we have to start transitioning our energy sources. And one of the biggest factors that's causing those prices to stay high, they have come down over the last few months. But one of the biggest factors is the war in Ukraine and the strife that's going on in the Middle East. And we need to do everything in our power to put a quick and swift end to both those conflicts. That'll do a lot for the energy prices.
Let's shift gears and talk about the farmers. It was a tough summer for a lot of them with the drought, hot temperatures, not a lot of precipitation. This was something that we talked about back during June as an issue, and then they need more help now than ever before, possibly. So, what can you say to the farmer looking for that assistance?
Well, I could tell them that my focus is on actually getting a farm bill that works. I'm not focused on anything gimmicky. I know farmers complain that, SNAP shouldn't be a part of the farm bill, but the fact of the matter, it is. And I know a lot of people are using SNAP as part of the farm bill as an excuse to just not make any progress on it. I think we need to extend assistance that was passed with the Inflation Reduction Act, such as with debt relief and tax relief to our small and medium farmers. And a lot of the farm bill focuses on helping out factory farms and helping that their bottom line, and we need it to start working for our small and medium farmers, which are the majority of those that we have in our district. Time and again I heard from people saying, this is the last group of cattle I'm putting through. This is the last crop that we're planting and we're selling the farm. And we have to make it so that they can actually maintain a thrivable living without having to have a secondary income to actually keep feeding us and feeding the world. And so I believe that requires investment into sustainable farming practices. Like the science is settled on global warming. You're not gonna be able to learn this from watching TV. You have to go read about it. And everything that's happening with the droughts that we're experiencing while we're getting huge torrential rainfalls in the South, this is what scientists have predicted decades ago would happen, and it's happening. It's happening. One of the things I want to bring up is agrivoltaics. It's basically putting solar panels within the crops, and they're having great success with this down in Arizona. And basically what it can also do is shade plants. It's apparently really productive when it comes to tomatoes, keeping them from getting scorched by the sun. We're gonna have to keep doing investment and research into these combination solutions in order to move forward as a country.
What about the relationship with farmers? Have you heard from more of them as you've been traveling, and have you grown that relationship?
I have done everything I can to grow that relationship. And the only step that's left is when I'm in office to prove to them that I actually care. A lot of them, that's primarily where I've been getting the response of, I love everything you're saying, but I can't vote for you because you're a Democrat. And I mean, it really burns me just because I don't see myself as a Democrat. I'm just someone trying to come in and fix problems. I didn't get into this with any ideology one way or the other. I just came in with the understanding that we're the greatest nation on the planet. And that's as close as I get to an ideology, and saying we could do better. Once I'm in office, I'll be able to prove to them.
We talked a little bit about energy, you touched on it, but what do you truly think the future of energy looks like for District 6 in Ohio?
I truly believe fusion energy is the energy of the future. About a month after I started going on the campaign trail talking about this, Germany announced a $20 billion investment over 15 years to put into fusion energy. And that's my main focus for the Mahoning-Marietta manufacturing corridor, doing advanced materials so that no matter what technology wins out in the fusion race, we will be the one making the advanced materials to power that. America is at its best when we are leading the way. We've taken a back seat. Solar panels, we used to be in the lead. We've taken the back seat in that realm. We're starting to catch up when it comes to wind and solar generation. But this fusion technology is something we cannot take a back seat on. And there's an extensive plan on my website, Kripchak.com, and press releases. There you'll find the document tagged the Marietta project that we've since renamed the Mahoning-Marietta Manufacturing Corridor, because the focus, as you'll see in the document, is spreading out the manufacturing across the entire district. And yeah, I truly believe that is the future of energy production. And we need to be the ones making the shovels, so to speak, when there's a gold rush.
Let's talk about workforce development. We're losing a community college here in Steubenville, EGCC. What is the role of community colleges and skill-based training programs in Ohio 6? Do you feel that there's a role for them?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Education in general is one of the main planks on my platform, and increasing funding and increasing the availability and access to community college, but more so technical training programs, is paramount to that. Like, look, the jobs I'm envisioning for the manufacturing district that we need to get going here aren't jobs that require college degrees, but it is skilled labor, and it does require training. And these kind of programs are invaluable. Now, I know with EGCC, there is a lot of, shady is maybe a strong word, a lot of questionable decisions being made with questionable updates on how those were going, and which led eventually to its closing. Does that mean I think community college can't succeed in an area? Absolutely not. But I believe that the federal government does have a role in making sure these programs are available to people. It's paramount. Look, I have a master's degree, and I'm the first to say our current college system in our country is a racket. I don't believe it's required to have a good leaving, and it shouldn't be. It's just unacceptable for us to say to people, you need to go into mountains of debt and get a degree. When, as we see now, we need people in jobs that require hard work, dedication, and skill.
So what would you tell a student who maybe was planning to go to EGCC or was going to EGCC, stay close to home, get that skilled-based training? What do you tell them now?
I think, well, it depends what field they're looking at. Right, when it comes to manufacturing industry, there's lots of trade programs that could be used through apprenticeships, through the unions. You know, I'm a strong believer in unions. I say that all the time. I would say we let them down. I know Kent State has an extensive extension school program. That's good that that's available to them, but we ultimately have to do better. And so, yeah, I would look at on-the-job training opportunities. I would go to union halls, talk to those guys about apprenticeship programs. I know that those are available. But community college, and it was one of the things I learned, I know California has a stigma, but one of the things I learned out in California was that if you do your community colleges right, they can be a boon to people, reducing costs of college, get your basic credits out of the way, go to a four-year school if you want to get something beyond your associates. That's why it's imperative that we have these programs back, and I will guarantee, I don't make promises what I'll get done, but I promise what I'll fight for. And I guarantee I will fight for getting more community college opportunities to our area.
Let's talk about childhood education briefly and safety and security. How do you feel the country stands, and specifically the district stands, in terms of safety in our public schools?
Compared to other parts of our nation, we have had some horrific incidents. They haven't been as widespread as others. Look, the question ultimately comes down to regulation on guns. And I know ultimately I would say that's the leading question. I don't know what's your intent to ask that, but that's the question that comes to everybody's mind. My gun policy is I just want our kids to stop having their heads exploded in schools. I have met very few people that think that we shouldn't have red flag laws, that don't think there could be an extra step of registration and review when it comes to assault-style weapons. I believe in deterrence in schools. I believe security measures can be made in order to keep schools secure. I know a lot of them in the area do that. But one excuse I will not take is saying that this is a mental health issue. And I won't take that excuse if it's not backed up with an actual plan to address the mental health crisis that we have in our country. Because we have a crisis, steps need to be taken, and probably the most liberal view I have, and I only say this half kiddingly, is I don't care if it takes $1 trillion to establish mental health access for people that are struggling in our country. We need to do that. We used to have these programs until they were defunded and eliminated, and we're suffering with those results. But I don't want to hear from anyone that's saying it's a mental health crisis unless they're offering solutions on how to address it. Yeah.
So you'll admit that there is a mental health crisis, of course.
Yes.
Right? But it is that you do not think that's the lead factor in these school-related violent activities.
I would say it is factor, but when you have parents buying their teenagers AR-15s, it's like, what are we doing? My unofficial campaign slogan is, what are we doing, people? Look, I don't want to take anybody's guns away. One of my main big gun initiatives is to actually increase funding to our gun clubs. Because in the Constitution, it explains how for the militia, it's the federal government sets the standards and those need to be implemented by the states. I don't think any federal requirement should be laid down to the states without providing the opportunity to meet those requirements. So I think we need federal funding for gun clubs to increase training for firearms. It engenders community, so that community can, I hate to use the word police, but so that community can police itself. Less likely for people to go off and be lone gunmen, which many of these incidents are. It's just one person that for whatever reason has reached their limit. And so that's why I think getting funding to our gun clubs, increase knowledge of firearms, decrease fear of them, increase responsibility with them. I guess ultimately my short answer is, yes, we have a mental health crisis. And yes, I do believe we need to take some, I hate using this term because everyone uses it, some common sense gun law steps. Because it's happening and there's the firearms on our streets, poverty is at a high, people are desperate, that's why we have to give them hope. The best answer to all these things is to give people hope so they don't reach their limits on these things.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Michael?
You know, what I often say is, please check out my and my opponent's websites. My website's Kripchak.com. Go read the policies I have in press releases, in the Citizens Forum, and just in the Issues and Policy section. And go check out his, if you could find any listings. See who understands these issues better. One of us has formed his platform from talking to people. The other one was the first member of the House of Representatives to come out against anti-price gouging measures. Could it be because he inherited a group of grocery stores and his net worth has increased 60% over the last 4 years while the rest of us have struggled? Do your research, and I think then the answer becomes clear which candidate actually has us in mind as to who he wants to work for.
Michael, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Dylan. I appreciate it, man.